Gentlemen, welcome to another video. In this video, I absolutely guarantee you will leave this knowing fully how much volume you should be doing each week to absolutely scientifically maximize the amount of muscle in which you can build. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Paul Green and I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces Sport Group operator. Most of my time in the past decade, I've worked in the gymnasium, training a lot of elite individuals across the fence, including some in the RAF, some in the Royal Marines, and mostly the paras. I've got a very unique experience on all of these matters. If you appreciate them, subscribe to the channel. If you don't like them, then go and find somebody else. Nowadays, I'm a full-time online coach. My program is called the Longevity Program, in which I work with men over the age of 40 from extreme sporting backgrounds, and in order to keep them doing the things they enjoy for as long as possible without being caught out with injuries and early retirements from these sports and stuff like that. So the plan for today is we're going to talk about what actually is volume. We're going to talk about hypertrophy. I'm going to touch on strength. I'm going to save it for another video. And then with this information, quite a dense lecture today, what you can do with this information to act now and then make some changes literally as soon as this video finishes. Then job done, send you on your merry way. 20 minutes. Got a lot to get through, but I'll get through this in 20 minutes, no dramas. Right, so what is volume? Volume is the amount of working sets in which you conduct at a very high intensity each week. A lot of people think about volume as how many working sets they are doing each day. But if you just zoom out a little bit, you can actually strategize in how to maximize your weekly volume across the board or across a certain few different areas. So it can be daily. Obviously, daily collective adds up to your weekly volume. And also, something that I've started doing recently is adding up something called fractional volume. And that is, for example, when you are training your back muscles, a lot of these pulling movements will actually use your rear delts, your traps, your biceps in order to pull, stabilize your stabilize your scapula and other things like that. In that setting, the main working muscle would count as volume 1 of a set. You are working that muscle once per set, but the indirect muscles that get worked, they still get worked. They would get a 0.5 in that setting, but I'll talk more about that in a sec. So volume, the amount of hard work you do. Makes sense. Pretty straightforward. So, Joshua Pelland, 4th of October, came out with this study. Meta-regressions exploring the effects of weekly volume and frequency on muscular hypertrophy and strength gain. This literally, there's so much stuff in the industry that says you should be doing 3 sets of 10, 5 exercises, 5 sets of 5, German volume training. This literally clears the air on absolutely everything. There is no more uncertainty about how much volume you should be doing. Right, the objective of this study, Joshua Pelland et al., was to, before meta-analysing the volume and the frequency of the research, all contributing resistance training sets were classified as direct and indirect. So what I talked about on the previous slide, they've literally took the volume, the work that's been done, and they've recalculated their own volume from, for example, your chest movements. They would indirectly work your triceps. They've recalculated the weekly volume of all of this research. So they've got a lot of data. Massive work, this massive job. And depending on their specificity to hypertrophy and strength, then weekly set volume and frequency for indirect sets was quantified as 1 for total, or 0.5 as fractional, or 0 for direct. And yeah, so this is basically a paper that hits on hypertrophy and strength. I'm not going to go through the strength too much today. But anyway, there was 67 total studies where over 2,000 participants were involved in this, right? And I know you sit here and probably take a breath and start switching off with these papers. These researchers, right, pay the participants decent money to take part in these trials, and they absolutely grill them. The intensity in which they're training at is relentless. They have 2 or 3 researchers watching a participant do a gym session. They're absolutely grafting their bollocks off. So appreciate that they probably train harder than you. So the only downside, the only main pitfall really to these types of studies is usually the participants are untrained individuals. So that's the main con, but tell you what, there's a lot of pros to this stuff, right? Especially this study, right? So the background, weekly set volume and frequency are used to manipulate resistance training. Yeah, we do that ourselves. We believe that if we do a certain amount of sets and a certain amount of exercises, we will maximise our chance of getting the best results based off the amount of time that we are available to train. So previous researchers identified higher weekly set volume as enhancing muscular hypertrophy and strength gains. But the nature of dose-response relationship still needs to be investigated. Anyway, this paper goes into this. Right, the findings. And this is mind-blowing, by the way. I couldn't believe this when I seen it earlier on. So minimum effective dose. You can still get hypertrophy gains from doing 4 sets of something per week. You get the most effective in the 5 to 10 sets range. So if you think about exponential curve where they're just going like this, your hypertrophy gains are now going up a hell of a lot. So minimum effective dose, maximum effective dose, right? And it goes on to 11 to 18, 19 to 29, and 30 to 42. And unclear after 43 working sets per week. But one of the findings is that every category you jump, you gain 50% more muscle mass for doing the extra volume. 50% extra than the previous category, sorry. So as you jump up, you will get 50% more muscle than the previous. And then as you jump up from higher efficacy to intermediate, you will get 50% more than that. It's a lot. However, look how many more sets you're having to do. So this is like a kind of a catch-22. How the hell can you get that many sets in? Do you know what I mean? But it is worth really, really thinking about. So the conclusion in writing from Joshua Pellard: distinguishing between direct and indirect sets appears to be essential for predicting adaptations to a given resistance training protocol. So straight away, gold dust, count your indirect muscles worked, because that will add up to your full weekly volume, and you will find that you may sit in a fairly decent category. But for some of the men on my program that are in like a strength block, they sit probably about here, 11 to 18. But for those of you that are 50, 60-year-old, be confident that regardless of your hormone state, you can still get away with doing this. You could go to the gym once or twice a week and still get some decent gains. And that's the misconception. Oh, I need to do this. Look, this is the data. Anyway, So make sure you're counting direct and indirect muscles worked. This method dose-response models revealed that volume and frequency have a unique dose-response relationship with each hypertrophy and strength. I cannot believe what I'm telling you. This is absolute gold dust. The dose-response relationship between volume and hypertrophy appears to differ from that with strength. Does more mean more? Does less mean more? You'll see in a bit. With the latter exhibiting more pronounced diminishing returns. So strength equals diminished returns after a certain number of sets per week. The dose-response relationship between frequency and hypertrophy differs from that with strength, as only the latter exhibits consistently identifiable effects. So hypertrophy, they haven't really made a conclusion that more sets ever has a drop-off of not achieving more muscle mass. And look at the numbers that goes on. Anyway, you'll see it in the summary. Right, so as you probably imagine, that was a fucking shitload of sets per week. Like 43 plus. How do you maximise it? Well, the first way you could buy my program and help me get out of my overdraft. That'd be great. It'd be the best decision of your life, no doubt about it. However, let's keep it educational and not salesy. So, strategic exercise selection. Without getting too nerdy, this channel is full of nerds, and I'm sure you appreciate it. And if you don't, you're on the wrong channel. What I mean by this is, instead of picking exercises that absolutely batter your morale and batter your energy levels, you can be a bit more strategic with your exercise selection. For example, you could do one of my current push sessions. We will focus on the bottom part, so the lengthening part of, let's say, a flat dumbbell press. And I don't really care about the top half of the rep. I will do it, but I don't really care about it that much. And then the next exercise that I do, I will focus on the shortening. So I might go straight into a fly or something like that. But then the next exercise, I'll focus on the lengthening part of the chest again. So you can be strategic to allow your muscles to not be completely smashed, and you're still getting hard sets in, just at different parts of the range of motion. Does that make sense? Obviously, from now on, count your direct and indirect volume. Direct being one set of volume for that muscle that is being the main muscle that's being worked, and the indirect muscles, you should be definitely given a 0.5 for them. But don't take the piss with this. Do you know what I mean? Don't take the piss. Err on the side of caution. Be conservative. Another way you can sneak volume into your week and into your sessions is by doing supersets. Do you really have to do 4 sets of back, or could you do chest and back, chest and back, chest and back? Do you know what I mean? Do you have to just do back and then have 3 minutes rest, then do another back set? Do you know what I mean? Do you have to do that? Another way, where, say if you do 3 drop sets in a set, that's another 3 sets till failure. So they get added as a set of volume. And now with all of this, with the strategic exercise selection, instead of doing deadlifts and then another crazy exercise, you just have a well-rounded, very effective program that makes sure that you focus on not just one area of a muscle contraction. You focus on all 3 muscle contractions. And then what you can actually find is you're stacking up volume, which is then really, really moving the needle to new heights with regards to your hypertrophy aspirations. Does that make sense? So you have got options to go up a few categories just by being a little bit more strategic in your approach. So while we're here, I'll touch on strength, of course. You know, I go on about joint strength, muscle strength, for longevity, obviously on the longevity program. So strength is a part of it. Now, look at the difference. Minimum effective dose to gain strength is 1 fucking set per week. To improve that, 2 sets per week. And then intermediate benefits, 3 to 4, then 5. The conclusion is Joshua Pellard, I watched a podcast about him earlier on today. He said 10 is the drop off with strength sets. And what I mean by strength is when you are literally going hell for leather, trying to push as much weight as possible every single time. And the reason for this is probably the effects that strength training has on your central nervous system. However, that's just an assumption of mine. Right, anyway, I'm going to do a video on the strength stuff another time, but I'm just going to keep this strictly hypertrophy because I don't want to start getting crazy and excited. So this is a lot of information, and it's probably really, you've probably thought, wow, and I don't blame you, so I definitely thought, wow, because when I'm doing videos like this, I like to have some decent stuff in my back pocket. So then when you question me, I actually encourage you to question me on my comments. Please do, like, you know what I mean? I want to learn. I want you to ask me a question that challenges my whole belief system. But when I'm just putting a video out there, instead of just spouting my beliefs, I actually have to do a bit of research, because a lot of people put trust in the things that I say. And when I train people, it's like, I need to know that thousands of people have done this before, so I don't get caught out. So bringing this back to your life, and this information back to your life, what do? So straight away, you just have that mentality of aspiring to maximise your weekly volume. And how often can you train? Straight away. Obviously the most important thing. If you can only train once per week, then this is probably going to be a problem for you. However, you still can apply all of the previous page, be strategic with your exercise selection, drop sets, supersets, add up your direct and indirect volume. If you're training once per week, you can be very strategic. How long can you train for? Can you get a 2-hour session in on a weekend? Do you know what I mean? Can you really boost up the volume? But you know when you think, I can't do 10 sets per day, it's because you're doing 10 sets of bench. It's because you're doing 10 sets of the same sort of exercise. Your muscles work differently, different resistance paths, vertical, horizontal. Do you know what I mean? You can really mix it up and stay fairly high energy as well. So you're going to have to get your notebook out, geezers. Notebook and pen, and just go through a few, based off your availability and how much time you have available. You're going to have to just have a few ideas on a notebook and pen. And, you know, it could be push, pull, legs, then it could be shoulders and core, and then it could be leg, whatever you want to do, right? And you list your exercises underneath them sessions, and try and be a bit more, not scientific, just be strategic about your exercise. Like, how can I actually get more volume in these sessions? Do I need to do 3 sets per exercise? Do I need to do 4? Do I need to change the structure of my exercises in order for me to stay fresh throughout the session, to conduct, you know, however many more sets than previously? Obviously, I've mentioned this about 4 times now. Count your indirect volume as well. Add up your volume, add up your indirect volume. You could add one set onto each exercise, and then, yeah, your drop sets. Also, partials as well. Like, if you've done a full session, a full range of motion, what's to say you can't do 2 or 3 exercises at the end of just partial reps where you just do the bottom half or the top half? That's another 9 sets on that muscle group. Honestly, I cannot wait to start like reprogramming for myself now, because I'm going to make some adjustments. I'm very excited to do so. Hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I want you to mention it in the comments, because I'll either reply to you or I'll just do another video. Do you know what I mean? I'm here for you. Right, the summary, the absolute gold. Minimum effective dose to gain muscle is 4 sets per week. You're going to get better benefits. You're going to get 50% better benefits by doing 5 to 10. And it keeps going up. Of around 50%. as the categories go on. 50% more muscle gain than the previous category by upping your volume. It's absolutely mental. I cannot believe that. Right, gentlemen, 20 minutes. I said I'd take 20 minutes. I did take 20 minutes. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, light bulb moments for you. Any questions on anything I've mentioned, give us a shout. You like this stuff, like my page, like my channel, subscribe, and I'll be posting all these. I'll do the strength one soon, but yeah, loads of good stuff on the way. See you in a bit.